On the morning of January 6, 2024, Patricia Ann Wilson was driving home to Arizona, a woman at the wheel, 62 years old, alone in the car. A few lengths behind her, a man named Pedro Garcia Canseco was driving home too, to Gilroy, California. Neither knew the other existed. It was just before 7:30 in the morning. The sky had been clear minutes earlier. Then, in less than a mile of open highway west of Bakersfield, the road simply disappeared into fog so thick you could not see 10 feet ahead of the windshield. Neither driver had time to react. Both collided separately with the same semi-truck. Both died at the scene on a Saturday morning on a road they had probably driven 100 times before. If you have ever driven from Los Angeles to San Francisco, you know this road. Interstate 5 through the Central Valley is the fast way, the direct way, the route you take when you just want to get there. 5 hours of flat, straight highway between two of the largest cities in the country, cutting through almost nothing in between. And buried in that almost nothing is one of the most dangerous weather phenomena in American driving, a fog so specific to this stretch of California that it has its own name. Locals call it Tulu fog, and California Highway Patrol has responded to dozens of fog-related crashes on this corridor in a single winter month alone. To understand why this particular 300-mile stretch of freeway turns lethal in a way most highways never do, you have to understand the shape of the ground it's built on. The Central Valley is a long, flat basin, walled in by the Sierra Nevada on one side, and the Coast Ranges on the other, like a shallow bowl the length of the state. In late fall and winter, after rain soaks the agricultural soil covering most of the valley floor, cold, dense air settles into that bowl overnight and gets trapped there by warmer air above it. Moisture rising off the wet ground condenses in that trapped layer, and by morning it has turned into a fog so thick that a National Weather Service advisory once described conditions on this exact stretch of Interstate 5 as carrying very high transportation risk, with visibility dropping to a quarter mile in the mildest patches and down to almost nothing in the worst of them. Unlike a storm, which builds for hours and shows up on every weather app before it arrives, Tule fog can form in the space of a single mile. You can be driving in clear morning light one moment, doing 70 miles per hour on an open freeway, and be inside a wall of white the very next, with absolutely no warning between the two. This isn't a new problem, and it isn't a small one. On the day after Thanksgiving in 1991, a blinding dust storm reduced visibility to nothing on this same stretch of Interstate 5 near Coalinga, in the same Central Valley corridor. Drivers who couldn't see the road ahead of them kept plowing forward at highway speed. 5 separate pileups broke out within minutes of each other, involving more than 100 vehicles combined. 17 people died. It remains, to this day, one of the worst highway pileups in American history, and it happened on the same 300 miles of freeway that connects Los Angeles to San Francisco, in the same kind of low visibility whiteout that keeps happening here every single winter.
What makes Tule fog different from almost any other driving hazard is that it punishes exactly the instinct most drivers have when visibility drops. The natural response to not being able to see is to slow down, which is correct, except that the driver behind you may still be going 70 miles per hour, unable to see your brake lights until they are already inside the fog with you. On a freeway, carrying heavy freight traffic day and night between two of the busiest port and distribution regions in the country, that gap between one driver braking and the next driver arriving at speed is where these pileups are born. The January 2024 crash that killed Wilson and Canseco involved 18 big rigs for exactly this reason. Interstate 5 through the Central Valley is one of the primary freight corridors on the entire West Coast, and in fog, a loaded semi-truck needs far more distance to stop than a passenger car ever will.
Interstate 5 wasn't built to be scenic. It was built in the 1960s specifically to be the fast, direct alternative to the older Highway 99, which wound through the valleys, towns, and farm country. Interstate 5 skips almost all of that, running instead through open agricultural land, with few towns, few exits, and few lights. Exactly the kind of open, wet, flat ground that produces Thule fog most reliably. The road was designed to get you between Los Angeles and San Francisco as quickly as possible. Nobody designing it in the 1960s was accounting for a fog bank that could swallow a car in under a mile, because the very features that make the road fast, straight, flat, and unobstructed are the same features that let fog settle across it undisturbed for miles at a time. Caltrans has spent decades trying to manage this. Some stretches now have fog detection systems and reduced speed advisories that trigger automatically when visibility drops. None of it eliminates the fundamental problem. A driver doing 70 miles per hour who cannot see more than 10 feet ahead of their own headlights is, for all practical purposes, driving blind. And they are sharing that blindness with dozens of other vehicles doing the exact same speed around them. Today, the stretch of Interstate 5 near Old River Road, where Patricia Wilson and Pedro Canseco died, looks like any other few miles of Central Valley Freeway. Flat, straight, bordered by fields on both sides. There's no sign marking what happened there, no memorial, nothing to indicate that on one January morning, a bank of fog, less than a mile wide, took 2 lives from 2 different families who happened to be driving through it at the same moment. The fog that killed them has already burned off by mid-morning, the way it always does, leaving behind clear skies and a road that looks, by afternoon, completely ordinary. If you are making the drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco this winter, especially early in the morning or after a rain, understand what you are actually driving into. This is not a mountain pass with a reputation or a desert with an obvious hazard sign. It is a flat, easy-looking highway that can turn invisible in the space of a car length, with 18-wheelers sharing the road at full highway speed. Slow down before you think you need to, not after you can already see the taillights ahead of you, because on this stretch of freeway, by the time you can see them, it may already be too late to stop. If you have ever driven through Thule fog on the 5, or you have your own story about a stretch of highway like this one, tell me about it in the comments. I will keep covering roads like it.